Okay, so here we go. We're getting ready to do a test with the BC5. We just did a pound of coffee without any issues. The big issue is once the machine's thoroughly heated, how will it do with under 1 pound roast? So we've got 8 ounces of Indian coffee. Now this Indian coffee is interesting. I haven't used it before, but when you look at it, you can see it almost looks like it's already partially roasted. It's very dry, so I'm going to have to keep my airflow low. So let me kick in the preheat on this, and we will do a ½ pound. Unfortunately, my Canon camera died, or it overheated due to a previous injury it had, and so we're using a camera where I've only got a 30 millimeter lens, so I'm not going to be able to get as full range of shots for all of you. But we'll get this ½ pound going. We'll preheat the roaster, and then we'll be ready to roast in just a moment. So we're giving the roaster a little bit more of a preheat since I took a couple of minutes inside to do a few things. But I just wanted to show you, and I don't know how good the lighting is here, the last 1 pound roast of Brazil coffee. A nice, beautiful, even roast. We did take our time and did it in about 13 minutes. But that was on the initial startup. The question is, can you do small batches of 1 pound, and especially even lower, like a ½ pound, on the second, third, fourth batch consistently if you want to do several batches a day? And the point is even if you can do that, you want to do all your sample roasting or your small batch roasting before you do your bulk roasting, just so you don't have to worry about trying to cool down the machine. Because if you've done 2-3 hours of 5 pound roast back to back, your machine's going to have a lot of heat built up, and especially in these double wall roasters, which is what this one is. So let me just turn that down, and I'm going to turn my airflow. I just want to see about where we are on the actual temperature, and then we'll go ahead and charge the beans. We'll also reset the timer. Okay, I'm pretty close to where I want to be. We're at about 375 degrees. I'm going to remember to start my timer now, and now I'm going to charge the beans. Keep in mind with the ½ pound that the true bean temperature probably won't show because the probe or the thermocouple is not immersed in the beans on a ½ pound. As I mentioned before, and I'll show you in a minute, you can change, if you're going to do a lot of sample roasts in the BC5, you can change where you put the thermocouple. I'll show you that. I don't know how great the lighting is here, but by default, the factory sets the probe right here for the BT. The ET is up in the neck, by the way. But there is a capped off place where you can change or put an additional thermocouple if you want. That'll be more immersed into the beans. With about a pound, you'd probably be safe. I'm thinking with a ½ pound, you're still not going to get 100% accuracy on what the BT is. But an experienced roaster will have no problem following the guides on Artisan or the guides on the front of the roaster, looking at the Omrons to know, as well as sight, sound, and smell, to know where they are in a roast. So just to fill you in, since I was blabbing, I forgot to turn on the gas, so we actually did a soak for about 1.5 minutes, maybe even close to 2 minutes. And the turnaround was right around at about might have been 260 or 270. I should have plugged in my Mac, which I'll do on the next roast to keep a better accuracy of what's going on. But here we are at 2.5 minutes. We got a pretty good rate of rise. Our airflow is really low. I got it about 1, and now keep in mind, this is not going to give you an accurate synopsis of the BT as we mentioned, but it's not going to be that far off. Right now we're seeing the beans yellowing a little bit. Keep in mind they were already a little bit yellow, just the way the Indian coffee that we got was. Our gas pressure is only at about 6 or 7 tenths of 1 kPa. Yeah, if you can see this coffee, it's already kind of yellowish, almost like it's near the end of the drying phase before we even start. So we got to keep that in mind as we go through the roast, that we want to see some light browning to know we're at the end of the drying phase. So my probe says we're at 320 at 4 minutes 20 seconds. But looking at the coffee, normally you'd say, yeah, that's about right. But since it's already a light color, I'm guessing the actual bean temperature, and I wish I would have had a laser probe to check it, but the actual bean temperature is probably about 20, 25 degrees cooler. I still have my airflow really low. I'm bumping it up now to 1 3/4. My gas pressure is super low, and maybe even lower than what I need it to be. But that's the beauty of this, is you can cut back on a propane roaster. You can cut back the gas pressure to about 0.5 kPa, maybe even a little bit less, and still do good roasting. Yeah, so we're probably, right now, we're probably at the end of, yeah, we're starting to get a little bit of light browning. So we're at the end of the drying phase. So my temperature is probably off 20, 25 degrees on the probe there because the beans are not immersed in it. But that gives me a pretty good idea. And because I've kept my gas pressure so low, you can see the environmental temperatures stayed really low too. So now if I bump up my airflow to about 3, what I want to watch is to make sure that my, you're going to see an increase in the, in this case, hopefully on the VT, but I want to make sure that, because I've got my pressure so low, I want to make sure that my ET doesn't start going in reverse, which it's not. So it's actually helping to heat the beans up a little more. So I'm going to bring this over to the front so you can get a better view of what's going on as far as the coloration of the beans. Hopefully you can get a fairly accurate color from the video, but we're at, according to this, we're at 370 degrees. I'm going to guess it's more like 350. Yeah, we're at a really super yellowy brown color. So I'm guessing it's more like 330, 340. If at this point I feel like it's going too slow, which actually with my gas pressure so low, I kind of think it is, I'm actually going to bump up my gas pressure to about 9/10 of a kPa, and I'm going to bump up my airflow to about 4, because we're actually 7 minutes and 20 seconds into the roast. Now according to this, my ET, which is going to be accurate, is at about 392 degrees. My BT, which is going to be a little low, is about 385, so it's probably about 355 maybe. Yeah, you can see it's a super light brown. It might even be a little lower than that. But I think as you go through this, you can see that you have a lot of control over this roast, even with the ½ pound, to where you can do back-to-back samples. We're going to follow up with another ½ pound of this Indian coffee as soon as this one is done. But I'm guessing we still got a little while to go into first crack. I probably charged it, or kept my gas pressure a little low for this batch. Our probes say on the ET 400 degrees at 8 minutes and 30 seconds. It says 399 on the BT, but it's probably more like 380 something, maybe 380. I thought I heard first crack, but based on the color, I think we're still a little low, so we're probably still about 370 something, and the rate of rise is not real rapid, which is another indicator that you have a lot of control over this roast. Okay, we're here in first crack. It says at 405, so it's probably more like 385. And we're at 9 minutes. Let me bring it back over to the control panel. So here we are at the control panel. We're actually at almost 9.5 minutes. We've only been going into first crack for about 30 seconds. Our hot air is 409. Our BT says 415, but it's probably really more like about 390 to 395. If you can see, this is a super, super light roast. A lot of the beans are still yet to go into first crack. So I probably could have turned my gas pressure up to 1 kPa or maybe 3/4 of a kPa during the drying phase and would have been fine. So we're going to probably be close to another 12 to 13 minute roast here. But one thing this is showing us is that you have a lot of control over this roaster on doing small batches, and that upgrading to the the heavy-duty chaff fan really didn't change that from the way it was before. And this is a double wall, so I think my previous tests a few years back were in single wall roasters, but it shows you in a double wall roaster, yes, you can do 8-ounce batches back to back. Just do them at the beginning of your roasting cycle, not at the end of an 8-hour day. I mean, you can do them at the end of an 8-hour day, but you're just going to have to watch when you first start doing it that you cool the roaster a little bit. But it's a nice, beautiful, even roast. I'll bring it back around here. It's probably at about 410, 415 degrees. The first crack just recently stopped. Let's take a look. My lighting's very good here. Because it's actually it says 440. We're probably at about 420. Maybe 415 is probably more like it, looking at the beans. I'm actually going to take this up a little darker. We're at almost 12 minutes. It's actually sounding like it's starting to go into second crack, believe it or not. Yeah, it is. You can hear that rapid crack. So I'm going to get ready to drop it. According to this, the ET is 430, which is probably more like what the BT is, even though it says 445. I'm going to let the beans drop. A little over 12 minutes, 12 minutes, 23 seconds. And we got a really nice full city roast. Not very good lighting, but if you can see it, I'm hand holding the camera, making that more complicated. From what I see on the screen, it looks darker than it really is. It's really more like a full city or slightly before a full city. But what I'm seeing on the screen, it almost looks like a full city plus. But this shows you definitely have control over this roaster to do sample roasting.